Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by John Cartwright of NomComms and NintenDaan to give our post-review thoughts on Splatoon 2. So let's get started. Alright guys, so we of course all got the game a little bit early, had the chance to play Splatoon 2 before it was officially released, but now it's out in the wild, all our reviews are out, and we can finally talk as much as we want about this game. So just right off the bat, Don, I'm going to start with you because I know the answer is super obvious. What do you think of Splatoon 2?
I really love it. It's, I think, my favorite Nintendo Switch game so far. And I've played a ton of Breath of the Wild, I played a ton of Zelda, I played a lot of Mario Kart, but this is the game I put actually serious time into before even the game was officially released.
Yeah, I mean, you are the highest ranked player that I've seen. I'm pretty sure it's going to be that way for a little while at least. Out there. I mean, last I checked, you were level 30, and I'm sure it's even higher now.
I'm now level 33.
33.
Jesus.
Yeah. How long does it take to get those levels as you go along? Is it as mind-numbing as it was in the original game, or is it just keep that sort of consistency that it has in the early levels as well?
I think the road to level 30 was easier than I expected, if I'm being completely frank here. It was before I even started, and maybe you should be making a guide for this, Derek. There are a bunch of coupons in the single-player campaign, which allow you for X.15 and X2 XP. So I collected all of those before the online was available to us. So I had all of those at the ready. And I kept using those until roughly level 20.
Wow. I've gotten those, but and I just didn't realize how useful they were initially. So I just sort of stayed away from it until a little bit later when I finally realized how good they could be for you. But before we get into that, John, how have you been feeling about Splatoon 2? Are you as addicted as Don?
Probably not quite. I don't think anyone is as addicted as Don.
Okay. Let me preface this before we continue, though. I put 125 hours into Splatoon 2 so far, okay?
It's quite a bit. But go ahead, John.
Sorry, John, you continue.
Yeah, sorry. I don't think anyone's on par with Don, but I'm pretty enthralled by it. Like, I'm a huge fan of the first Splatoon, and this is pretty much that, but better. Like, the visuals are better. There are more modes. I'm just shy of 50 hours, so, you know, about half of Don. Well, not even that. But yeah, I love it. It feels like the definitive version of Splatoon.
Yeah. I when I was doing my review, because I basically feel the same way as you guys, it's just an excellent game, and so addictive right off the bat. But it also I feel like there's gonna be a lot of comparisons between it and the original, just because of how similar they seem on the surface. But it's one of those games
right.
The more you play, the farther you dig deeper. I think the more the differences really show themselves, and then just in general, how much more there is to like. Krusty Sean's, like having Krusty Sean as a way to increase how much gold you earn or how much experience you can earn through levels. The Salmon Run modes, the local multiplayer actually not being worth a damn, and you know, just the single player being fun as well, and then of course just that classic multiplayer that is still as addictive as ever. And I really love this game. Like, I can see the arguments to be about it being too similar or just an update, but I don't care because I'm having too much fun.
I definitely agree with that. At the same time, there are a couple of faults I could still point out. For example, I still feel that when there's downtime, you should be able to switch your weapons while being in a lobby.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And even Mario Kart 8 Deluxe did that, so it's kind of strange they omitted it from this.
Yeah.
And I think you can do it in private matches too, which just makes it even weirder.
Yeah, you can get it. You could do it in the original Splatoon from private matches from the get-go, and it seems weird that even like a couple of years later, they don't seem to be committed on that specific part, because there always seems to be at least at the very least 20 seconds of downtime. In those 20 seconds, you could easily swap a weapon and not go back to the lobby and do this entire thing all over. It's a smaller thing. I can understand why not doing the gear, because the gear is just a little bit too much. But even just a weapon would be fine to me. Another thing that I wonder about is they removed the split screen mode from the original Splatoon. I don't think it was the best thing in the world, but it was kind of fun and a throwaway thing, even though like how you would do the motion controls on the second controller were insane. But considering like there are now pro controllers where this is a standard and you have an option to bring over clothing and elements from your progress through Amiibo, it would seem weird that it didn't include something similar to this in this game.
I'm not too surprised, just because it was also a mode that nobody really got that into, as far as I can tell. Like, maybe people tried it once or twice, and maybe that was because of the way the multiplayer was actually handled, but it was pretty obvious that Turf War and the ranked battles were the prime show here, so why not make that available for the local play, and not really waste the time for that multiplayer mode where you're popping balloons.
Sure.
Racing. So,
I mean, if you have two Switches, you can still do Salmon Run, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I do think that it would have been nice to have something similar on something for one television and showcase tabletop mode that way.
Yeah, maybe. Not a bad idea. But as far as that goes, like I said, I'm not too heartbroken about its exclusion.
Oh no, I'm not heartbroken, but it would have been like a nice thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go ahead and break down, I guess mode by mode would be the easiest way to do this, and since we didn't have access to the online right off the bat, let's go ahead and talk single player, and what you guys' thoughts were on it. John, let's start with you. What did you think of the single player?
So I wasn't a huge fan of the first game single player, but I feel in Splatoon 2 that just the first world has more interesting gimmicks than almost the entirety of the first game single player. Like, every level has something new, whether it be grind rails or like different enemy types. I just feel like there's so much more variety and so much more interest too, especially with each level having a new weapon. Because in the first Splatoon, you're stuck with the hero shot, is it?
Yes.
But in this one, you have the roller, the charger, and all stuff like that. And it's a good tutorial for the main multiplayer modes.
Yeah, I actually I pretty much agree with you. I haven't gone through the original Splatoon's campaign in a while, so I can't directly compare them. So it doesn't feel maybe as fresh as the original, but as a introduction to how to play the game, it is light years ahead of the first, because you do have all those different scenarios. You do have a different weapon almost constantly, showing off what you can do with each of them, and having the levels actually designed around those weapons in order to better show them off. I love the enemies that have the orange balloons above them, so you actually can even show off more of your skill with accuracy, or just trying to aim at certain things first with trying to get the power eggs from those balloons and then splatting the enemy. Like, there's just those nice little touches that make it stand out so much. And for me, I thought the first 4 bosses were just as good as anything from the original Splatoon. Like, the bosses in Splatoon have been just great across the board. But I do think the final boss of Splatoon 2 is a downgrade from the original.
I agree.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I think that as much as fun as the single player is, and I did also really enjoy the single player in the original Splatoon, I think that the last boss is where it kind of lets down, because there's so much build up in between segments between worlds, and you don't kind of know where it is going, but you kind of want to see the payoff. And I felt that the payoff was like the little scenes between the Squid Sisters were nice, but like the final payoff was disappointing.
Have you guys tried replaying the final boss?
Yes.
There's a very neat thing they do where they kind of change up the dialogue. I think that's very cool.
They did it in the original as well, so that was not really a surprise to me.
Oh yeah, of course.
But it's still fun to see, like Callie, why the heck did you put the glasses back on? Because they make me look good. So, there's fun dialogue like that, and there's still moments about the final boss that I really like that final bit where you're using the grind rails and jumping over his punches. That should have been round 2, not round 4, because the first boss did such a great job of taking all the elements that you had learned about through the course of the single-player campaign and putting them in one massive level where you're fighting DJ Octavio the entire time. It felt like a true culmination of everything you had learned up until that point. And when as soon as I saw DJ Octavio this time around, I'm like, oh no, it's just a circular arena. Please don't be what I think it is. Like, the setting is cool, was having this huge audience watching you like a concert hall, but it still was like, I don't think they're going to be doing as much as they did the first time. And unfortunately, I was right when it came to that, because it's just that first boss. Like,
here's what my problem is with the boss in the second Splatoon. I think where it fails is being too similar, because the way you bring back the punches to like Octavio is too similar to the first boss. It feels more incremental than a solid follow-up to it. And only in that final moment where you are on those ink rails does it feel actually unique.
And having that Rainbaker with you, like Andre and I have discussed this a lot, because he wasn't a fan of the final boss either, because that's one of the things he was really looking forward to, like a lot of us, honestly. And we really feel like first round should have been the way it was. Second round be like the grind rails. Maybe after that, DJ Octavio chasing you, so you have to change back and forth between the grind rails. And I don't know, just trying something, or maybe having Callie going after you at the same time. I'm not sure. There feels like there's something they could have done to add in the other elements.
Honestly, I don't think they should have done the first part at all. I think they should have done something new. I felt kind of similar about Octo being back in this one.
It's kind of a reuse, but he's fun.
Yeah, it's fun how they reused it, but I would have liked something different from it.
Yeah, I mean, there are only 5 enemies in the game, or 5 bosses, so it is kind of strange to just reuse one, even if they do have fun with it. I've done a bit more. But I do feel like, every boss in the game probably has the quality of Splatoon 1's final boss, or even more close to that. Whereas the original one had very mechanical bosses, like they're all very robotic. So I think they have a lot more imagination into these ones.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm trying to think. It's funny. Probably my favorite and least favorite bosses are the same ones, because I love Boss 4, the Octo Shower. Fighting it with the charger is so much fun. It was so unique and so different just because of how the arena was set up, and I really enjoyed that one. But you fight that thing with any other weapon, and it is a nightmare. That took me, like, when I was fighting it with the umbrella, and it took me 15 minutes.
Actually, with the umbrella, it didn't take me that long, because you have to kind of aim with the umbrella more perfectly, which I got kind of skilled at that point. But I think with a weapon like the splatter shot, it becomes way less fun.
I don't know. I think the single player is great, but it ends on such a half-hearted note that I think that's what's sort of coloring it for me.
You know what the other half-hearted note I think are sort of the unlockables in the single player? The way that you get new weapons seems not really well thought through. And I mean this mostly compared to the original single player, because there you would get it through blueprints that you would find together with the other Sunken Scrolls, which felt really rewarding, together with getting all that lore in the background. With the Sunken Scrolls here, there's not much lore. It seems more fluff-based than anything. And next to that, getting the weapons is more of a drag, because you have to complete every single level with that specific weapon all over again.
Yeah, and I did that once for the umbrella. I think you did as well, Don. And because we were both hoping that, hey, if we did all these levels with the umbrella, we can get it early before they officially release it as the free DLC. And nope.
No, they gave us the spiel about completing all the levels, and it would be available at some point in the store, but it's not there in the store.
Not until they actually release it, I think, will we get the hero version.
I mean, I did it with two other weapons, so I've done it 3 times at this point, and I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And I've done it with the hero shot and with the dualies, and now with the umbrella, which I didn't get anything for, which is even more annoying. So after that point, I felt, I didn't want to do it.
Yeah. Did you try to unlock any of the hero versions of the weapons, John?
I didn't actually. No, I played through the single player twice, trying to find all the collectibles, but I didn't actually end up getting all of those.
Oh, okay. Well, fortunately, I have a guide for you, so you can track those all down. But that's the thing. There's 8 weapons you can use in single player, and to have to go through 32 levels if you include all the bosses with each of them, just drains it out of you. Like that's too much. Like, it really does. And I've talked to a few other people that agree with this. It's mainly like, hey, I want to play Splatoon, but I don't have access to multiplayer, and I'm out of the house, so I guess I'll just work through single player again with this weapon.
I don't think single player has ever really been the core of Splatoon, though. Like, it's something
really.
that sort of warms you up to the other modes.
That's why the unlock system doesn't gel with me.
Right.
Like, completing that single player 8 times is not feasible for anybody. Even if you love everything the single player, even if you discount every criticism we have of the single player campaign, then you can't disagree that playing 8 times through that thing is not all that fun.
For sure.
No. That's definitely the case. But how'd you guys like Marie as your earpiece this time around?
I loved her in the first boss, in the toast one. Her puns were so good.
They were great.
I thought her puns or her dialogue was on point the entirety of the single player campaign. It was really good. Yeah.
She added a nice bit of sass to it, and I loved how dynamic she could be because, I'd be searching for the Sunken Scrolls or the Sardinium, and I'd find one that's actually pretty well hidden, and she'd be like, wow, you really can't let anything go, can you? And that kind of stuff. Like, she'd actually kind of give you crap.
Yeah, at another point, she said, "Are you a completionist or something?"
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I love those little bits. It really adds to the personality of the whole thing, and it was great. I think she added a lot more just fun to the proceedings than Captain Cuttlefish ever did.
Definitely. The Captain Cuttlefish seemed more tutorial-like in that sense.
Yeah, he didn't really do much with it. And you had Agents 1 and 2 pop in, but again, they didn't add that much to it as much as Marie and Sheldon.
Agents 1 and 2 were Kelly and Marie anyway.
No, I know, but I know that fact, but it's still the fact, as they talk to you, they didn't do that much.
Yeah, but they didn't even say all that much during the original campaign, so
yeah.
even when they did say some funny stuff, but it was very far in between.
Were either of you guys frustrated at the fact that we never got any explanation for why Marina is allowed on the surface compared to all the other Octolings?
I was expecting her to have kidnapped Callie or something, but no, she just has no real impact in the story at all, apart from some very brief lore. It would have been very cool for her to be would have some kind of explanation for why she's even here. She just kind of is there.
Yeah, there's only one sunken skull that features her, which was during a underground concert featuring DJ Octavio and the Squid Sisters. Mm-hmm. And you can see her in the background in Octoling gear.
Yeah. So
and she was very happy about seeing everything.
I think the way I interpreted that is that she was there for the final battle against DJ Octavio, and she was so inspired by the Squid Sisters that she wanted to, I guess, follow in their footsteps, which is a cool backstory. But how did she pull that off?
I mean, all we're told about Octolings is that they're bad.
But it wasn't the final battle though. It was just an underground concert.
Oh, okay. I interpret that as the final battle, because why would Squid Sisters have a concert with DJ Octavio otherwise?
Hey, you need to start your career somewhere.
I guess so. But yeah, that's a little disappointing not to have her have any real impact on the story or even just any kind of explanation. And like Dawn has said earlier, the Sunken Scrolls are very much more fluff, or covering what happened in the 2 years since. Like, we actually get an explanation for Little Judd, but we get no explanation for Marina. So
yeah.
Oh well. But I think that pretty much covers the single player. It's good, it's better, but it's not perfect, as we pretty much covered. But let's jump right into the multiplayer with Turf War and I guess a little bit of ranked battles, because I've still played very few ranked battles just because I'm still waiting for people to catch up and have enough people at level 10 to actually do those. But
there are plenty of people at level 10 now, believe me.
Oh, nice. Nice. I will definitely try to face off against them and see how I do. But what do you guys think of Turf War so far? Is it... I mean, obviously you enjoy it, Don, but is it... what? Do you have any criticisms, I guess, would be the question for you?
About Turf War? Not really. It seems to flow similarly to the first game. And it does it in a way that makes sense. I mean, why change a formula that works? The thing that does interest me is how they handle like the win structure, because in the original game you would get like wins and that would grant you additional money after talking to Judd. But now every time you win, your level counter on a weapon will increase. And if you get 5, 10, or 15, or even higher, I think 30 is the next one. Never reached 30, by the way. But if you reach 5, 10, or 15, you get like additional experience for your experience counter, which is extremely helpful to get you leveled up even quicker.
No, I really like the idea of the freshness bonus, because not only do you get that little boost and experience from using a particular weapon, it kind of encourages you to like, well, I can at least get to 5 with all the weapons I've unlocked. That way I could get even more of a bonus and get even more experience to get myself a higher level. And at least that's the way I kind of felt like they were doing, unless you also just focus on that one weapon and try to get it up higher and higher. Is that sort of what you took away from it, John?
Yeah, for sure. I think the entire game kind of encourages that, because the new rank modes have different rankings on the different game types. So like the tower control has a different ranking to splat zones and all of that. So it just kind of keeps you going, and you're always just trying to achieve that higher rank. Which and there's so many different ways to do that.
Especially with the freshness bonus on the weapons, I was really enthralled to continuously try to get to 10 or 15 and at least try a weapon and see how it felt for myself. So I basically have done that with most of the weapons at this point. Outside of a couple, I'm not good with charges, so most of the charges I haven't touched. And I'm also not really good with the blasters. For the later blasters were a bit better to operate, I felt. But the standard blasters I kind of avoided.
Chargers and blasters not exactly my strong point either. And I haven't seen all the weapons, but the weapon variety so far of what you unlocked besides the dualies seems to be just returning weapons from the original game. Do they have other new original weapons as you get higher in level, Don?
They do. The final 2 weapons that you unlock, it's not anything too spectacular, because again, it's a blaster, so I can tell you that, and it's a charger. But they are really powerful with really good combinations too. I think the weapon late game that I've been using the most is the one that you get at level 28, which is the Aerospray RG, which is the one I've been using pretty much non-stop lately, actually, because that's the weapon I want to get to 30.0. And it has been a struggle for sure, but like using that weapon and using it like in that specific way, like using it for turf war, is really effective, because it has a nice array. The weapons that you like, the special that you get next to it, are really helpful, especially with the hamster ball. So yeah, I've been using that one pretty much.
What about you, John? What do you usually use as far as a weapon in Splatoon?
So I use a variety. It depends on the mode, really. In the rank modes, I tend to use... Well, I've started using the Slosher, which I never really used in Splatoon 1 at all. I've used the Charger, too. More so in ranked, not really in Turf War. In Turf War, it's generally just a spatter shot. What I found quite interesting, though, is because Splatoon 2 is new to a lot of people, many people missed out on the Wii U, I've seen players kind of trying to get the grasp of the mechanics, and especially the brand new ones. They don't quite understand that you're meant to turf the environment. So you start the game and they kind of just sort of charge forwards and go into the centre of the arena. I noticed this a lot in the Splatfest too, where people didn't quite understand Splatoon. It's quite interesting seeing them kind of grasp the game.
It's that same learning curve from the original game,
right? And there's a person on NeoGAF earlier who was saying that the chargers are just a trash weapon, and I think it's the kind of weapon that you really have to like learn, because not everyone's good with the charger. It's very hard to actually be accurate with that thing. But I've had a little bit of more of a preference to it now that you can charge it in the ink and kind of store your charge a bit. Definitely makes it a bit more like a quick, more impulsive weapon than before.
I think that's a good point about the new abilities that some of the weapons have. Some don't, absolutely don't. For example, the Aerospray is just how I used it in the last game. But stuff like the dualies and the charger and the roller have some really nice quirks that I appreciate using when I get to them. Because especially in Salmon Run, I'm kind of forced to use the charger. So I charge it up, move around, and then use it on a steelhead.
Yeah, I do like the other modes forcing you along that way, but a thing I think I really enjoy about the turf war and single player, multiplayer in general, I should say, is how they rebalanced the special weapons. Because special weapons could really turn the tide of battle in the original game, and here they can definitely be effective, but they aren't game changers like they were before. And they're just that nice, quick use. And I think they even realize it themselves because it feels like the specials pop up a lot more often this time around.
Right, like you think about the first game, the Kraken, that thing let you spread ink everywhere, it made you invincible, and you could one-hit KO pretty much anyone close to you. And there's nothing really like that, nothing really makes you invincible. The first game had a shield which blocks every single attack, whereas this one has something similar, but it's just kind of armor that breaks very quickly. So it's nice.
I think the ink armor is also my least favorite one so far. I mean, the ink armor, it's nice that it spreads across all of your team members, but if your opponent has a roller, then it doesn't do anything for you at all.
Yeah. The ink armor I've seen be annoying enough for me that I don't think it's my least favorite. Mine is the Stingray. It is so hard to aim and get what you want, and I can't even spread ink that quickly or get it that far. Like, the Stingray is really worthless for me, and unfortunately it gets paired up with the Chargers a lot of the time, which makes me even less likely to use them because
it's a very long distance special though, that's good for the Charger. Like if you're sort of hiding in a snipe point, that's a good weapon to use to try and get rid of all the enemy team.
That is true.
I think it was also paired with one of the Splatlings, that Stingray, and that's when I started using it, and I couldn't get on with it at all. I think my favorite special is the hamster ball, just rolling around, trying to hit a specific enemy, and just singing the Katamari theme song every time I started up.
Yeah, I finally got the chance to use that, and it's definitely devastating, but I like that it's also not impossible to stop, because I was trying to get further into the enemy base, and I thought, I'll be kind of protected in this. And no, they whittled down the baller pretty quickly and splatted me before I could actually use it. So, again, it feels balanced because of that.
Yeah, every special, at the very least, you can avoid them to a larger degree than you could in the original. Especially like the barrage of bombs. You can just move out of the way, go behind the backside if that's possible, and just splat the person.
Yeah, you can always tell a new person because the Tenta missiles early on will always splat people very quickly. But I think now people can easily avoid the Tenta missiles unless they get caught up on something.
It's quite hard in splat zones because you're standing in very specific points, and then you have all these missiles just coming towards you, and you don't really want to move out of the way because you want to keep that zone. But at the same time, you don't want to get splattered.
Yeah, that's actually why I like using the slosher in that mode, because it does give me the Tenta missiles, and that is perfect for especially splat zones and tower control to a certain extent. And I like that because I do tend to use the slosher for ranked battles, and unfortunately I haven't had a chance to really try the ranked battles to any large degree.
Outside of the dualies, I would say though that there are not many new weapons in this game.
I like new functions though, like the roller has that new vertical swing, the charger has the saving the charge. That's kind of it though, isn't it? There's not really many new additions.
I mean, they do some different variations later on say the roller, because there's for example something called the Flingza roller, which is a smaller roller which lets you allow you to use ridiculously fast with a specific roller, which is a really nice thing to have, and it comes with splat bombs, so it's a good weapon to have. But outside of that, I haven't come across other variations that I found that useful in comparison to that. It's
funny, you really do have to experiment and see what sort of works for you and what works out. And I honestly, as far as sub weapons, none of them are really sticking out to me too much outside the curling bomb. Like, I tried using the poison mist a bit, it didn't really do much for me. The auto bomb seems pretty easy to dodge, but that curler, the curler can be really devastating, because I've actually banked it off the back end of behind somebody, and they thought they dodged it, and it'll explode behind them and splat them. So you can get really crafty with the curling bomb, and I love it for that. I
think one thing I would say is, if you are really good with the chargers, one weapon that you should absolutely look forward to is the Goo Tuber.
Oh, nice. What makes it special?
The Goo Tuber has a really long range from left to right, so the shot that you usually have with a charger is really focused on a singular line. Mm-hmm. You get a really wide line with the Goo Tuber if you fully charge it up. It's really nice.
I'll have to check that out. That sounds like a lot of fun. So
it's super helpful in Splat zones. Absolutely a great tool.
So how much of ranked battle have you guys played?
Most of today has been spent playing ranked.
For me, it has been yesterday and today. A little bit on Thursday because I noticed that more people were coming online, but mostly Friday, Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
It was very hard to find a game for the review period because most people in the press hadn't quite reached level 10 yet. And most weren't searching for ranked games. Only managed to get a couple of those in for the review. But yeah, I've been catching up today, and it's probably my favourite way to play Splatoon.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer it to Turf War, honestly.
I always had a hard time just because it got so frustrating for me seeing my level, like not getting beyond a certain rank and not being able to stand up to that toe to toe. But I'm willing to give it another shot. I'll probably play ranked battle later today.
How they handle the upgrades, like the rank upgrades in rank mode now, seem more fair. Because once you reach a certain rank, you don't drop anymore. You do have to grow naturally by winning, but when you lose, just your bar shakes, and if your bar shakes like, think 8 or 10 times, then the entire progress of that specific rank drops to 0 or to a specific point. Which then you have to work your way up to that specific point again, and then you finally get a rank upgrade.
Okay, that sounds a lot better. I'm looking forward to trying that out. I have still yet to try the new Rainmaker, but I did like the subtle changes they had to splat zones and tower control.
I think all of the free modes have some smaller changes. I think Splat zone's the least so. I feel that how the countdown is handled is a little bit faster than before, because with the original Splatoon it would go, especially if you lost and went back up again, that specific timer went ridiculously slow. Now it goes at even faster than the actual 5-minute counter, which is interesting.
Okay.
With Rainmaker you definitely see the changes because the entire weapon itself, the Rainmaker, has changed. It shoots now more like goo balls, I would say. And you can completely charge it up, not similar to a charger. And if you completely charge up, it kind of releases a bomb-like substance, which kind of can remove anybody in sight, which is really helpful.
Nice. And I'm looking forward to trying it out myself and seeing how I do and seeing which mode I sort of gravitate toward. I'm interested in trying it out and seeing how I do, because I want to get up to that B- rank so I can finally see what the heck league battles are.
Yeah, I haven't tried that because I'm only in one of the 3. I'm currently in League Battle and nobody else is there really yet, so...
Yeah, I've not tried it either. It just kind of glares at you from the menu.
It does. And they'll talk about, hey, these League Battle ones, and we're like, what the heck is League Battle? Like, I don't even know how it's played. Like, is it treated like Turf War and it's just sort of ranked, or is it going between all the modes? Like, I don't know. Like, I want to try it out.
League Battle is basically that you can team up in a duo or with a team of other people that you know. So basically you can also talk via the voice chat app, via the Nintendo Switch Online app.
Whoa.
So or via Skype or what have you. But you can actually work together in ranked mode, which is already a big accomplishment, I feel. A few changes I don't really like are mostly found in tower control, I think personally. While I think that they do a lot of interesting stuff with tower control, with the checkpoint system and everything, it also makes the routes to actual finish way smaller than before. So if you take a big run, then it overtakes it, and they already have done checkpoints, it will take no time for them to make it to the end of the game, which does sort of annoy me. I mean, it's faster anyway with more people you have on the tower, so that is an secret element that they have kept. But I do wish sort of that the routes towards the finish were slightly longer so you can have a chance to fight back.
Yeah, I feel like the maps are a bit smaller than Splatoon 1's in general. Would you agree with that, or is that just a placebo?
A couple. I don't think necessarily that the shipyard is necessarily smaller. I think that's equal in size.
Right.
I think the reef, like the basic one, is definitely smaller. The remade ones of Splatoon 2 are obviously not.
Right, yeah.
But the only one I really notice it with is the reef.
To a degree, yeah. I'm trying to think of the others where it starts feeling smaller because of the tower. I think in tower control, because that's where I really felt the size of the reef and how small it was. And I think you are right about the shorter routes. That does kind of affect things. But as far as the returning stages, Port Mackerel and Moray Towers, like I like Moray Towers. This is better. I love the changes they added to it. It's so much more dynamic. You can really move around a lot better, and I like that idea. And Port Mackerel, getting rid of all the damn hallways and opening it up a bit in the center and having a little bit of verticality so you can get people from above, like. Those are all good changes. Like it feels like they took some of the potentially weaker levels and just made them stronger for this game.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would have chosen Port Mackerel though as my returning map for Splatoon 1.
Yeah.
I love Moray Towers. I think there could have been some stronger ones, and maybe we'll see them with content updates. But yeah, I've never been that big on Port Mackerel.
I liked Port Mackerel as a ranked stage. It's really good. As a turf war stage, it kind of feels whatever.
Yeah.
As a ranked battle stage, though, I think it's one of the better ones because you have so many ways to avoid your opponent and to easily overtake it. It makes some really interesting possibilities happen for a ranked battle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did notice that though a few times I got to play tower control on that. So yeah, it's like we said at the beginning. It feels generally just like a lot of good improvements to the whole thing, and just feels natural. But honestly, probably one of my favorite things about Splatoon 2, especially now that I've had a great chance to really play with friends, and get a better experience with it. Salmon Run is so freaking awesome.
It's really good, isn't it? I played it on a live stream, like a sort of a launch live stream with a friend who got it after the entire Nintendo eShop disaster, luckily. He finally got to download that, so that was fun. And he did a couple of runs of Turf War, and he really loved it. And then he was like, "Shall we play some Salmon Run?" And he was like, "Okay, let's do that." So he did the training, and then after that we just jumped in a few rounds, and we just really enjoyed it with one another. Because we could talk, we could interact. And that was kind of missing during the preview period when I played Salmon Run. Because I did really like it, but I did feel there was something was missing, and that thing that was missing was pure communication with one another.
I can definitely see that. Like I did all right in Salmon Run by myself, like I was still having fun, but when you actually have a team and you're talking to one another and saying where all the salmon are coming from and which bosses it is and how each person's going to take them, the strategy comes into play, and I love that sense of just working together towards a goal, and it really captures it in those instances.
Yeah, it kind of has those built-in communication features. Like I think you can say this way and booyah. So
yeah.
But apart from that, the talking to each other really helps.
What I also like a lot about Salmon Run is given how much you like interact with one another, you can give them also like very easy hints. For example, like because the guy didn't know very much, it was like, you have a charger, shoot at it off the steelhead right off its head, and then we can beat him. And he did it in one shot. So it's like little things like that, like having the knowledge and be able to share to another person makes Salmon Run also a bit more culpable or doable regardless of the circumstances. Because we did had some really rough rounds in those first couple. You wouldn't think that was possible, but 2 of the 3 waves we had in our second match were just that all the water was raised up and we had very little space to move.
That is always the worst, when it's high tide and you just have that limited space, and then they throw like 5 bosses at you, and like, how do you handle it all? It gets so stressful, but I love that stress, because when you can pull it off, it feels so good. And I love it for it. I love the fact that you actually have a set number of weapons and you randomly get cycled through them, so you actually can experiment a bit more. Like personally, like I don't like using chargers in turf war or the even really ranked battles, but I love having it for Salmon Run, because I can take care of those steelheads. I can take care of the bosses super quickly. It's really satisfying.
especially for steelheads, and they make sure that regardless of the weapons you have, they at least include like a boss summon that supports that weapon. Especially with Iron having a charger, I was like, come on, Steelhead, I know you're coming. There he is. So they do kind of know what weapons you have currently in your arsenal, and they're trying to make waves that make the usage out of it. So they are very smart in how they handle that stuff, and at the very least, every single time I played it, I felt it's very fair in how they handle it.
It's so dynamic. Like, every match feels different, and it could just be a different team. It could be the tide coming in, it could be fog, it could be a different weapon you have. Even though the maps are usually the same, Salmon Run just has so much flair. And what I quite like about every mode of Splatoon is these skills are transferable. So like the single player is teaching you how to use the multiplayer skills, and Salmon Run has bosses that use the specials for multiplayer. So no matter what mode you're playing, you're learning the core of Splatoon. And yeah, I love that. I just love how simple and accessible everything is.
No, it's so smartly designed, and yeah, I noticed that as well, where each of the bosses really did use one of the different types of specials that are out there. Although the steel eels are, I like, especially when it's high tide and the steel eel shows up, it can be a nightmare to manage.
For
Oh
sure.
my god, yeah. That actually happened during our last rounds where it's high tide and the steel eel comes up. It's like, here we go, here it is, this is the big one.
Yep. I feel like the steel eel and the flyfish are the two most annoying bosses in that.
The flyfish was the one where you have to throw bombs in?
Yeah.
Yes, in its containers.
Yeah, the flyfish is very picky in how you need to defeat it, and I wish there was a bit more room in that specific sense.
When it comes to like round 3 and there's different bosses everywhere, I think most people just kind of ignore the flyfish, because he takes a while to defeat, and so many other bosses just take a couple of hits.
I definitely agree with that.
But that's also gotten my teams into trouble because we ignore him, and he's just pounding us with all of his abilities, and we can't keep it. So I've actually started getting to the point where if I see a flyfish, he is my first priority because I know how much trouble he can cause. And it's kind of funny because Malls is like the scariest looking one, just him coming up, but he's one of the easier ones to handle.
Moss is not difficult at all. I think the one that I've usually the most trouble with are the towers. I forget their names.
Well, the layered ones.
I don't remember them
either.
Yeah.
But I usually go up to them first and defeat them because nobody else will.
I think what's interesting about the flyfish's design is they're kind of designed for co-op, because there's 2 different capsules for bombs, and you can typically only throw 1 bomb at a time. So that's that's just trying to encourage you to play together. Whereas the other bosses, they take a lot of hits, but there's no real design features that say you need more than one person for this guy.
Yeah. The other one that's kind of the closest to that is the one that has the shield in front, where you have to knock him out and make sure
you
he
have to go behind him.
Yeah, so you get behind him. And when you work together, he can be taken out really easily. You can do it by yourself, it just takes a lot longer.
Yeah, for sure.
But working together, he is a chump.
Yeah, one person with a splatter shot at the front, other person with, say, maybe a roller or a charger or what have you, or the dualies, and they're golden.
Yeah, they're done. And I've experienced the night, I've experienced the fog, and I love how they just change up the elements and how, especially at night, it gets freaky, because I figured out the whole firefly thing where the salmonid will charge after the person that has all the fireflies surrounding them, so you really have to protect that person. And then with the fog, you can't see anything, so you got to work together to try to figure out where it all is and really tell them, hey, this is happening here, help us.
Yeah, and another thing that I don't really necessarily like about Salmon Run is that the way that you progress seems sort of slow. The way that you have to reach certain point holds, and they seem to reset every time you get into a new time slot. Because when a certain time slot ends, it resets your entire meter till 0 again.
Right.
You keep your level, but everything that you need to earn is reset, which I don't necessarily think is a great thing.
It's not bad, because I actually did play enough yesterday between the 2 streams I did to get all the bonuses to the point where there weren't any extra bonuses beyond more polo shirts. So it takes a lot of play, but you can eventually get all the bonuses you can possibly get in Salmon Run for that day or for that period. So I don't have too much of a problem with that. And those bonuses can be really nice. Other tickets, more tickets for you to use at Krusty Sean's, or in one case I got 40,000 gold out of one of the super bonuses, and like sweet, I just bought every weapon and every piece of clothing I could get at that point. So it was really nice. Like it does reward you for playing Salmon Run, which I enjoy.
Yeah, and the point in the game I'm currently at, I feel that I got most of the gear and all of the weapons. I don't necessarily need a gigantic monetary bonus. So I was kind of hoping for something more than just a polo shirt.
Yeah. Hopefully they change up what bonus you get, because if it's always that polo shirt, that's going to be a little bit of a disappointment.
What I think is quite interesting about Salmon Run being timed, as in it's only on at certain days, is I know a lot of people who play Splatoon 1 and like never touched single player, never touched rank, and only played Turf War. And I think Salmon Run being on at certain days sort of encourages you to jump in on that opportunity. Because I think it would be quite hard to find players like a year from now in Salmon Run if it wasn't on at these very specific times. Like if it was on all the time, people might just ignore the match.
Yeah, I mean...
But that's hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. At the same time, if you have the capability of playing with people in local multiplayer,
oh, for sure,
it's always there for you.
I don't understand why you can't play with friends at any time. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I wish you could do that, because I want to try out that whole let's raise the difficulty to 100% and see how long we last.
We actually did that very recently with a friend of mine. We tried 100%.
And how bad was it?
Ooh, that is a fun time. That is a really fun time that you should absolutely try. I'm sort of kidding. I'm sort of not. It's really fun and really challenging at the same time. Wow.
I can just imagine it just purely overwhelming you, because first time I encountered Knight and saw all the Salmonid rushing you, I was freaking out. I was like, what is going on? Why are they all coming at me? Oh, this is so wrong. But
to be fair, I have two Switches here, so I gave my other friend just the Switch here to play, because he never played Splatoon, so he wanted to try it. So we did a couple of rounds of Turf War and everything. It's like, let's do some Salmon Run. We first did 5%, which was still... It is kind of the challenge that you expect if you're starting out in Salmon Run on the... Was it on the apprentice rank?
Yes.
But 100 is just a whole other board game that you're not prepared for.
So you went from 5% to 100%.
He was cocky. He was like, let's do this. I said, okay, you sure? Yeah, okay.
If you think so. Like, the highest I've heard people be able to handle is about 40%. Beyond that is when it starts getting really rough.
Tough. You need a good team.
Yeah, you really do. So hopefully someday I'll be able to manage that and get a good team and just have a lot of fun in Salmon Run, but we'll see what happens. But that's pretty much all the major modes in Splatoon 2, and I mean, the graphics are great. I enjoy the music. I think the single player music isn't quite as memorable as the first game, but the music everywhere else is just as good, and I love the ending theme. That fresh start is so addictive to me.
Last thing I want to mention is this is both in local multiplayer and in private battles. The ability to spectate.
Oh yeah.
With the Spectator for up to 2 people, and I think the Spectator option is incredible.
It's so good. This is like, going to change how Splatoon is handled in esports or streaming. It's so good.
We should give you sometimes maybe just a chance to see it to Derek with just 3 people in a room, but it's incredible because the amount of freedom you have with cameras and how you can zoom in on certain of your team or the opponents, or how you can cooperate with one another is incredible, so in depth.
Think like when you're trying to join a match in Mario Kart 8, but better. Like you can actually see the entire map at once. You can move around. You can see certain players. It's really dynamic and really good.
Yeah, and in ranked mode, you can also see objectives, so you can zoom into if the Rainmaker is not picked up yet. You can zoom in on specifically just the Rainmaker or the tower or the Splat Zone and see how it's progressing. and you can just roll around the map and see how players are zooming into it. It's so good. It's the best thing I've ever seen a spectator mode do.
You really get the sense that Nintendo really wants to make Splatoon 2 an esport.
Well, it is in Europe. It's part of the ECL.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So I think the ECL will have a lot of great uses for this.
You can just picture a commentator talking over this mode. It's really so good. It's just really good.
And with two perspectives possible, I think that one could follow one team and the other could follow the other.
Yeah.
It can have some great dynamic shots there.
That'd be really cool to see. I think they put it to good use during the E3 tournaments as well. So yeah, it's great to see what's kind of all the steps are taken in order to just make that experience that much better. But I mean, we've talked about it, Splatoon 2 for nearly an hour. If it's not obvious by now, I love this game. I really do. But John, what are your final thoughts on Splatoon 2 before we wrap this up?
Well, I've played every mode extensively, but I feel like I've barely scratched the surface. Like, I'm nearly 50 hours in, but I feel like I could do so much more Salmon Run, so much more ranked. Dan, how do you feel about this? You've done like 100, 115, 120, how many hours was it?
125.
And do you feel like fatigue at all, or do you feel like you can do more still?
No, absolutely not. For me, Splatoon 1, and this is something that I also need to preface, Splatoon 1 was a good feel game to me, so if I felt a little bit down, I would just play a few rounds of Splatoon. It felt great. And this is going with, I guess, in the same mindset of that, because every time I pick it up, I'm just feeling great about it. And that's even after 125 hours.
Wow.
So even though there will be a new weapon tomorrow, by the way, so there is a new weapon coming tomorrow, so I will definitely check that out all over again. So if the updates are coming as quickly as this again, then I can easily see me already at double and maybe a month of 3 or 4. And I'm not even joking about that, because
no, I know you're not.
The original Splatoon I played over 400 hours.
Yeah,
probably top that by
right.
next month at this rate.
Yeah,
but I won't play as hard as during that preview period. That's for sure, because there's other stuff to play. But it's a game I will continuously and regularly go back to, and I don't feel fatigued at all. I'm still having a great time with it.
I think the Switch being a handheld makes this so easy just to pick up and play. Like, you can just have it in standby mode, just kick it up, and all of a sudden you're in a match within minutes. Whereas, on the Wii U, you had to boot up the entire console, sit through the Squid Sisters. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just go straight in.
Yeah, that's the positive part for me, because I've experienced this with other Switch games too, where I will just bring my mobile hotspot along, play a couple of matches while being in the train, and continue on with my day. So the likelihood of me reaching that is actually very likely.
That's awesome. No, it just paired so well with the Switch, and they really did so much for this game, and I can't wait to play even more. Like, I covered every single update that Splatoon 2 had initially. The original Splatoon had originally. I'm gonna be doing that again, showing all that off, demonstrating the new weapons, bringing them into matches, talking about them, covering every Splatfest. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I feel similarly. I can't wait for any of that stuff. First week of Splatfest is already announced. Which teams are we choosing?
It's not a very good Splatfest, I'll say that.
I agree, but you still have to choose.
Wasn't it ketchup and mayonnaise?
Yeah, mayo versus ketchup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so who's who? What's Marina repping?
Marina is ketchup.
See, I was going to go ketchup anyway, but I always feel like I'm going to side with Marina over Pearl.
I can see a lot of people going that way, and to me, I had this conversation so many times now, but why isn't it ketchup versus mustard?
Yeah.
Like ketchup and mayo go well together. Like, that's what I put on a burger.
Yeah.
Because they need to appease the Europes, and nobody uses mustard in most of the European countries.
Oh, it's all Europe screwing up everything. I see.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
Yeah.
And I'm a mayo guy anyway, so I would be repping mayo.
Ooh,
yeah, I actually will be the same. Like, if I had to choose one or the other, I'm going to end up choosing mayo. I like both, but I think I don't want to have another experience in Splatfest like the demo.
What, Team Ice Cream versus Team Ice Cream all the time?
Exactly. Like, I was Team Ice Cream, and I was fighting almost exclusively other Team Ice Cream people. Like, I fully expected us to lose because we weren't fighting Team Cake at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be going Mayo, and I won't let Marina's decision affect my own, because I went on Callie's side quite a few times as well. But yeah, I'll go Team Mayo just so I can actually fight some Team Ketchup people.
At least I don't hope that the last Splatfest will not be Pearl versus Marina again, or else we have a very easy victor.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, there's no chance for Pearl to win that one.
No, there isn't.
Nope. But
oh well.
Yeah. Alright, well I think that covers it for our Splatoon 2 discussion, so thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And John, where can they find you at?
You can find me at NomComms on YouTube and Twitter, and we've just put up some Splatoon 2 visual comparisons between the single player, the multiplayer, and the hub.
Nice. And Don, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter, which is at NintenDaan, it's NANTNDAAN. You can find me also in a bunch of places, including Go Nintendo, Nintendo World Report, and sometimes here, I guess.
Sometimes here, like you show up quite a bit.
Question mark, and it might be related to something else, but you'll see that soon enough.
Yeah, you'll find out.
Yeah.
And of course, make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Splatoon and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.